In response to full power Pepe absolutely dominating YCS Atlanta, Konami took drastic action by doing something they had never done before. The first ever adjusted list was announced on February 3rd, 2016, set to go into effect on February 8th, the day after YCS Atlanta had concluded. Performage Plushfire, Performage Damage Juggler, and Tellarknight Ptolemaeus were now banned from official tournament play, while Performage Skullcrabat Joker, Performapal Monkey Board, and Luster Pendulum the Draco Slayer were now limited to 1 copy each. As a result of the new adjusted list taking effect, players now had to revise Pendulum to see if it was still playable, revisit older strategies such as Cosmo, or even explore newer strategies such as Monarch and Phantom Knight that were released immediately after Breakers of Shadow but were completely outclassed by full power Pepe. In this series, both MBT and myself will be traversing the sands of Yu-Gi-Oh's history. Each episode will take a deep dive into Yu-Gi-Oh's past formats and unlock new strategies as new sets become available. Strap yourselves in because anything is possible. Welcome to the history of Yu-Gi-Oh! If you want 5% off any singles or sealed product, click the affiliate links in the description and use code CIMO5. And clicking the TCG Player affiliate link before you shop helps support us to provide you with more amazing content.
Now that we've beaten the Tier 0 2-week Pendulum format to death, let's all take a breather with this, another Pendulum deck. Now you might be wondering why we are retreading old ground, but there's a very good reason, and that's because this is one of the decks that topped the UDS Summer Invitational in LA in February of 2016. Now, many of you watching probably have no idea what the UDS is. It stands for Ultimate Duelist Series, and from 2015 to 2019, it was a supplement to the YCS season. Konami hosted 4 UDS events every single year, 2 in February and March, and 2 in August and November. These tournaments were meant to sift the wheat of beasts from the chaff of chaps, and they did just that by gating entry to anyone who did not have a minimum amount of UDS points. You could get those points a variety of ways, doing well at regionals or YCSs, participating in specific public events, even playing a couple of very specific events at your local gaming store. But the result is, these tournaments were populated by the best of the best in terms of duelists. If you look at the winners list of all UDSs, it's just a who's who of professional players, and it's not hard to see why. At the second UDS ever held in Los Angeles, California in February, Denny Yu got top 8 with this deck, Draco Pal. This tournament was strange for a number of reasons. Firstly, and most importantly, this was an event held using the adjusted list Konami had created earlier. That meant that Performapal Pendulum wasn't likely to be all you were seeing in Top Cut. Secondly, some professional players figured out a really interesting brew surrounding the newly released Phantom Knight cards. We won't be looking at that this week, but stay tuned for next week. At the top 8 of this event, there were a ton of different decks represented, including Performapal Pendulum, Cosmo, Monarch, which Alex will be playing, and Phantom Knights. Once Phantom Knights evolved into Phantom Knight Burning Abyss, these 4 decks would represent the pillars of the upcoming NAWCQ format, so get used to seeing them. For now, let's just take a look at what Denny was playing. We've got Archfiend Eccentric. This is in the deck to make quick work of exactly Domain of the Monarchs. Double Guiding Ariadne. We are on 3 Solemn Strikes and a warning. 1 Luster Pendulum the Draco Slayer, 1 Guitardle, 2 Lizard Draw, 1 Monkey Board, 3 Performapal Pendulum Sorcerer. Many people wondered why this card escaped judgment, and then they looked at the most recent set release. 2 copies of Performapal Silver Claw. Occasionally you just need a 5 scale. 1 copy of Performapal Skullcrabat Joker, and then my favorite part of this deck, Rescue Rabbit. Because so many of the Draco Slayers are normals, we're on 3 Master Pendulum, 3 Vector Pendulum, and 1 extremely sacky young boy. We've got 3 copies of Draco Face-Off, 3 copies of Painful Decision, 2 Unexpected Die, 3 Upstart Goblin, 3 Wavering Eyes, 1 Bottomless for Rafflesia, and the Solemn Suite. In the side, we've got 2 Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, 3 Maxi, 1 Cyblocker, a Darkhold, triple MST, 1 Raigeki, 1 Twin Twister, and 3 Mask of Restrict. Against Monarch, you could be sure you wanted to see these a lot more than strikes in your opener going second. In the extra, we've got 2 Dinoster Power. Denny actually talks about in a deck profile that he wish he would have played the 3rd copy. 3 copies of Ignister Prominence, 1 Abyss Dweller, Castel, Emerald, Diamond Direwolf, Divine Dragonite Felgrand, King of the Pharolymphs, Double Majester Paladin, Giant Hand, and 1 copy of Traptrix Rafflesia. While this deck was shot through by the adjusted list, it is by no means unplayable, and definitely has the teeth to compete in this upcoming format. I'll let Alex show you a deck very near and dear to his own heart.
Cannot special summon Fusion, Synchro, or Xyz monsters using this card as material except Draco Slayer monsters. Huh. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've never made a mistake here on the history of Yu-Gi-Oh!, but we're going to adorn the shirt of shame just because I felt it was fitting considering my performance in the last couple of episodes. Thankfully, I don't think it mattered too much, but we still try to be as accurate as possible. And thankfully, we are going to play a deck that I know quite well because it should be no surprise that with the new Monarch structure deck released around this time, that I was all for playing this deck. And oh boy, do I have fond memories playing this. I'm so happy we get to show this off. It's fascinating because the Monarch structure deck was actually released prior to Breakers of Shadow and Full Power Pepe format, but the hype surrounding Full Power Pepe was just swelling to such a point where it didn't really matter that these other decks were in the format because, yeah, sure, maybe like one or two of them topped YCS Atlanta. It was just not even a comparison as to how these decks fared against Full Power Pepe. So that's why we sort of went a bit out of order in terms of how the timeline was staggered. And so here we are now showing off Monarch. To be fair, though, I do want to mention that this deck was heavily played at the local and regional level because of how affordable it was. If you look at this deck right here, Domain Monarch specifically, most of the cards in this deck were available in the structure deck, meaning you could buy 3 copies of the structure deck and have basically a playable deck. I think the notable cards that were missing were Kuraz, and Kuraz wasn't even that expensive if you wanted to get copies of it. And then also like Super Quantum Red Layer, which in all honesty, you don't even need this card, so that's perfectly fine. Other stuff like Twin Twister and Maxi is substitutable as well, but for the most part, there really hasn't been many examples of a structure deck you could buy 3 copies of, bring it to a large tier event with a couple of small upgrades, and actually do quite well. And this is one of them, so let's go ahead and do the card by card. So first up, we have Edia the Heavenly Squire. So the Squires are like mini Monarchs with the game plan of actually summoning the larger Monarchs. So Edia has an effect that on normal or special, you can special summon a monster with 800 attack and 1000 defense from your deck in defense, except another copy of itself, and you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of this turn. There's going to be a lot of cards with that restriction, but honestly, it doesn't matter because we're not playing an extra deck, which also helped the cost of this deck become just incredibly affordable to most people. Then Edia has a second effect that if it's sent to the graveyard, you can target one of your banished Monarch spells and traps, add it to your hand, and you can only use each effect once per turn. Typically with Edia, you're going to summon Eidos, the Underworld Squire. So when he's normal or special, during your main phase, you can tribute summon 1 monster in addition to your normal summoner set. And then you can banish this card from your graveyard, target a monster you control with not that you control in your graveyard with 800 attack, 1000 defense, except Eidos, special summon it, then you're locked into summoning stuff from the extra deck. That's perfectly fine. So the main loop here is that going Edia, special summon Eidos, then you have 2 monsters to tribute for either Ether or Erebus. Now, it's strange to see us playing level 8 Monarchs because Monarchs have had a 6-star stat line for so long, but these guys are houses of a card, and they're definitely worth the payoff, which is what we'll get into momentarily. But then with Eidos, when they're both in the grave, you can just banish him, special the Edia, get another Eidos from the deck, and continue the loop on the next turn. And Edia can also get your resources back because banishing Monarch spells and traps actually becomes quite common. So that's it for them. Then we have the big ones, Ether and Erebus. So Ether has the ability that you can tribute it by tributing 1 tribute summon monster instead of using 2 tributes, which is kind of nice, making it slightly easier to summon. If this card is tribute summon, you can send 2 Monarch spell or traps with different names from your hand or deck to the grave, and if you do, special summon a monster with 2400 attack and 1000 defense from your deck, but it returns to your hand during the end phase of this turn. And during your opponent's turn, special summon 1 monster with 2400 or more attack and 1000 defense from your deck, but return it to the hand during the end phase. And during your opponent's main phase, if this card's in your hand, you can banish a Monarch spell or trap from your graveyard. Immediately after this effect resolves, tribute summon this card. This is a quick effect. So a lot going on here with this card. So basically, this is going to help you set up the resource loop here. This allows you to search for your larger Monarchs because A, it allows you to get a ton of damage on the field. You can summon another Ether or another Erebus and just get in for 5600 alone there. B, you will add the card back to your hand if you're not going to OTK your opponent, meaning you could have another Ether on the follow-up turn. You can Erebus your opponent, which we'll talk about this one now. It has the same condition where you can tribute summon it using a tribute summon monster, and if it's tribute summon, you can send 2 Monarch spells or traps to the grave, and if you do, shuffle 1 card from your opponent's hand at random or graveyard or their side of the field into the deck. And once per turn during either player's main phase, if this card is in your graveyard, you can discard a Monarch spell or trap, target a monster in your grave with 2400 or more attack and 1000 defense, add it to your hand. So Erebus is nice in a format with Cosmo and all these things that can have just some immunity to certain effects. Erebus shuffles them away, but turn 1, you basically get to hand rip your opponent. You can actually sometimes do this twice because that's not a 1 once per turn effect, which is kind of cool. Erebus is just a house of a card, and both of these cards together are fantastic. One of the other Monarchs that is one of the 6-star ones that we are playing is Kuraz. Now, Kuraz may seem a bit weird because this didn't really see play in older Monarch lists, but for this list in particular, Kuraz is quite strong. So on normal or special summon, you can target up to 2 cards on the field, destroy those targets. And if you do, each player can draw 1 card for each of the cards they controlled that was destroyed by this effect. This card cannot attack during the turn it is normal or special summon. So why this is important is that this effect activates on special summon, where most Monarch effects activate when they are tribute summon, which is why Kuraz is better because we can special it off of Aether. Secondly, this allows you to turn Aether into disruption because you can pop 2 cards your opponent controls. Even though they may draw cards, depending on the circumstances, they may draw into things that are going to be useless to them depending on what they've already played. And third, you can use Kuraz to pop your own cards to draw extra cards after you've already used some of your cards and their abilities, meaning that you just get to Pot of Greed off of this card when you otherwise wouldn't be able to do anything else. A fantastic card for this archetype, which is why we're on, I think 3 might be a bit too many. I think 2 was more common as we go on a little bit later, but we'll see how it goes. Triple Maxi in here because obviously every other deck is special summoning. That's why this is here. And then we have Super Quantum Red Layer. This guy's cool because he can just special summon himself to the field for free if you don't control any monsters. Gives you some fodder for your Monarchs, and he has the ability that when he's sent to the grave, you can add a Super Quant card back from your graveyard to your hand. So if you have another one, you can just basically always add this back, which is kind of cool. But he's just a nice card all around for what this deck is trying to do. That does it for the monsters. Then for the spells, there are a lot of them. So some of these have already been in the game up to this point, but some of them were just newly released in the structure deck. So Domain of the True Monarchs, this is a card that most people know, is the field spell. So while you have no cards in your extra deck and you are the only player that controls a tribute summon monster, your opponent cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck. Now that includes not only just monsters that would be summoned from the extra deck, but also like pendulum monsters that are already in there as well. If a tribute summon monster you control attacks an opponent's monster, it gains 800 attack during damage calc only, and once per turn you can reduce the level of one monster with 2800 attack and 1000 defense in your hand by 2 until the end of this turn, even after summon set, even after this card leaves the field, whatever. So the point is, the main game plan you're trying to go for here is to get a tribute summon dude on the field and then activate Domain, and then your opponent, if they're playing an extra deck focused deck, just loses the game because they can't do anything about it. The level reduction's also nice because that means you can summon Ether or Erebus for 1 less tribute, making them a lot easier to summon off of only a single monster, such as special summoning Red Layer. Then we have Pantheism. Pantheism, oh boy, this is what brings the whole deck together. So this is basically Destiny draw for Monarchs. You send a Monarch spell or trap from your hand to the graveyard, draw 2 cards, but then you get the plus because you can banish this card from your graveyard, reveal 3 Monarch spells or traps from your deck, your opponent chooses 1 for you to add to your hand, and shuffle the rest back into your deck. You can only use that effect once per turn, but you can use the first effect to discard and draw 2 as many times in a turn as you want, which really helps with the consistency of this deck that it desperately needs, because if there's one thing this deck loses to, it's itself. Then we're also on 3, Return of the Monarchs. This card was already out, but this card is a house. So you can't special summon from the extra deck, whatever. When you tribute summon a monster, you can activate one of these effects. And basically, when you tribute summon, you can either add a Monarch with 2400 attack or 1000 defense, or a Monarch with 2800 or 1000 defense with a different name from whatever was tribute summoned from your deck to your hand. So that means that you're just able to constantly keep getting resources and just make sure that you get back something for actually tribute summoning. But it's nice because it allows you to set up with Aether in hand and basically get to this, because this is the most important card since you can use it on your opponent's turn. We also have 3 Tenacity, which allows us to reveal a monster with 2400 attack or 2800 attack to add a Monarch spell or trap from our deck to our hand. This allows us to search Pantheism, Domain, whatever we need. Stormforth allows us to tribute our opponent's monsters for our Monarchs. Twin Twister just gets rid of back row, so that way we can clear the way to be able to set up the lock. Then Escalation and Prime are the 2 traps. So Escalation's already existed. This just allows you to tribute summon during your opponent's turn. And then Prime is a fantastic card. So the first effect doesn't get used too often, but it is quite important for recyclability. Once per turn, you can target 2 Monarch spells or traps in your graveyard, shuffle them into the deck, then draw 1 card. The more important effect, and the more used effect, I would say, is if this card is in your graveyard, you can banish another Monarch spell or trap from your graveyard, special summon this card in defense as a normal monster that is a fairy light level 5 with 1000 attack and 2400 defense, not treated as a trap card, actually kind of important, and you can only use that effect of the Prime Monarch once per turn. So this is a trap card that basically allows you to have free tribute fodder every single turn. Not just your turn, but your opponent's as well. As long as you always have these spells in the graveyard, you're going to have constant fodder for this, making it even easier to summon your gigantic Monarch. So that's it for the main deck. I know that was a lot. There's also a side deck. Battle Fader's nice because it just gives you a dude for tribute summons and also just helps you not die. Caius the Mega Monarch is actually quite good in some instances, even though it's all playing the sideboard. Effect Veiler's fine. Majesty's Fiend is good for decks that are all monster effects. This card can just hose certain archetypes. Trap Eater's very funny because Mask of Restrict was a card that people legitimately sided during this time, so this was an out to that. Book of Eclipse is here, as well as March of the Monarchs if you want to make your Monarchs even meatier. Raigeki's just a good board wipe. Twin Twister for more back row removal, and Solemn Scolding for when you're going first, because you're perfectly fine just setting one back row and just making sure that you have everything you need to protect your lock. So if you can get lucky enough to always go first and always set up the domain lock and always play opponents who are always going to be playing decks that require using the extra deck, then you might have yourself a good tournament run. But otherwise, it may be a bit rough. So let's see how this deck stands up to one of the strongest decks of the format that was recently nerfed from the new adjusted list. And hopefully this is going to go in our favor. So ladies and gentlemen, let's not make you wait any longer. It's time to duel. Well, Joseph, here we are, the first ever adjusted list, and it will also be the last ever adjusted list, because I think in the 7 years since this first one, we have never had another one. How you feeling over there?
Well, you know, if they didn't do it for Firewall, I don't think they're ever going to do it again. I'm feeling okay. Yeah. I think this deck is good regardless. Happy to show off Monarch. I think Monarch's going to be really fun to take a look at for our viewers. I mean, if there's one thing people can say about Monarch, it's that it is fun.
It makes it for such a fun viewer experience. I do find it funny that we just completely skipped this part of history just because, like, we know people wanted to see Pepe, and, like, in all honesty, until you get to the post-adjusted list format, no one really gave a shit about Monarch, about Cosmo, about Phantom Knight. Well, like, any of these decks were just all irrelevant because it was all Pepe hype.
It's just so weird because, like, you are correct in that all of the decks we're currently playing were playable a month ago, but none of them could stand up to the Pendulum Menace. Now that they have an option to, I mean, for me, Wing Raider format started now.
Exactly. So this is going to be interesting. This is going to be a very important rock, paper, scissors for you to win here as well.
You know,
so let's shout the patron. It is Frogget. Thank you for the support. And, buddy, you got your hand up. I got the die ready.
I have my hand up.
Let's roll. I got odd 3.
I literally put up a 3. Oh, man.
All right, buddy. It was fun. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I hope we hit ad revenue because now the game is over.
50% chance that I lose the die roll. 30% chance you just brick anyway. I think I'm fine.
We don't draw for turn, right?
No, we don't. Enjoy your 5. Oh, how's it looking? Oh, what the heck? Monarch bricking.
Okay, hold on. I did that for dramatic effect. I'm going to set one.
Okay, all right. So what would you set in Domain Monarch? Could be Stormforth. Then you could banish for Aether, but you don't have Domain out, so that doesn't do a goddamn thing.
I'm really eating my own words with that whole intro that I did.
You're dead. You can't possibly win from this position.
This is the Monarch experience if I've ever seen it.
All right, I need a second to think about this hand. I am reticent to tell you, dude. I think you may have been right. I think this game might be over. Okay. Okay, it could be the stupid fucking, like, summon trap.
It could be escalation.
I feel like it's the summon trap. I have a way to pop it, but, like, it doesn't matter if I pop it or not because the summon trap needs to banish one. We'll eccentric target the back row.
It was the only chance I was going to have.
Thank God. Okay, good thing that we went for it. All right, let's just win the game here. Skullcrabat Joker.
Oh, great. Oh, isn't this at 1?
Hey, you know what else is at 1, asshole? Perform Pal Monkey Board.
Shut the fuck up.
All right, we'll scale Monkey Board if that's okay. We'll activate the effect of Monkey Board.
I just hope you misplay at this point and just miss lethal.
I think at this point it's quite literally impossible. We're going to add Lizard Draw to hand.
You shouldn't say that. I said that and it was impossible for me to lose. Thanks for the life points. Yeah, now you can't lethal me. Excellent.
Yeah, I'm glad you think that. All right, Pendulum Summon time. Are you ready?
Okay, just summon the kitchen sink. Okay. Oh, Jesus. Oh, my God. All right.
Okay, we'll go a Pendy Sork here, deciding what we're supposed to pop. I'm
not dead on board.
No, you're not. You're not. Eccentric Monkey Board. And we get to add 2, right?
Yes, you do.
Wait, you were talking about the cards thing, right?
Aren't they still technically monsters?
Yeah, they are. All right. I was trying to figure out if there was a way we could, like... I think this might just be lethal. Let me do some math. You know, maybe I shouldn't have spoken so soon about the upstart. I don't think I can kill you this turn, but I can get to a position where you can't possibly win. We'll grab Guitar Toll and Silver Claw. Can I not get Pendysork? Boo. I can't. I'm just trying to cheat here. All right. We are going to scale Silver Claw.
That makes sense.
We will pop the Lizard Draw. Wow. That,
Is it the second Silver Claw?
No, I don't even think that would do it, but it would be very close.
That's an extra 900. I don't know. It might be.
It'd be an extra 6, right? It'd be 21, 25.
No, you have 3 Performer Pals.
Oh, I see what you mean. Extra 900 total. Yeah. I mean, my brain's a little too broken to do math. I think that this is just where we are. I'll go combat.
Okay, so I'm going to be taking 15, then 21, then 18, then 1850.
Yeah, I feel like I really was quite close, but no, there's not a way. If we had popped the 2 scales and gotten Lizard or Silver Claw, that would have been a 9, putting you at 850, and then Eccentric is 500 or 50 points off. God, that's annoying. All right, no big deal. Okay, so I mean, this is still fine because I still get to do crazy stuff. We're gonna send Tribute Lizard Draw and Vector Pendulum, the Drake Overlord, in order to make Dinoster Power, the Mighty Draco Slayer.
This is a card.
He's crazy. Yep. We don't have the...
Oh, wait a minute, sir. No, you can't. You need a Draco Slayer Pendulum monster.
Oh, this
Vector is a Drake Overlord.
Oh, you're right. Okay, let's walk that back. Damn, that was part of the setup.
I only know because I was cheating with Luster in the last 2 episodes we filmed, so I've been very careful with how that's been working.
How interesting. I don't think Rafflesia really does anything to you.
Depends which holes you have.
Well, you know what holes I got. Okay, we're gonna go these 2 for Majester Paladin.
Sure.
We're going to trigger Majester Paladin. We'll get a pen guy at the end of the turn. Yep. And then, you know, that's just going to be the end of the turn, I think. We're going to set Guiding Ariadne as well, just in case you get any ideas about twin twisting. We'll go to end phase and trigger Paladin. Let's go grab I don't know, a Pendulum monster. I think probably Luster is the pick. Grab Pendysork. No, let's grab Luster. No, let's grab Pendysork. All right, back to you.
Sure. All right, can I get out of it? Oh, maybe I can.
That's pretty good, yep.
All right, so we'll ditch this, draw a couple. It might be okay. All right, let's go Pantheism. So I get to banish target 3 Monarch spells or traps, and then add them to my... Or you get to pick one to add to my hand. So I'm going to give you a choice here. Don't worry. I'm going to let you pick between Monarch Stormforth.
Yes.
Monarch Stormforth.
Okay, thinking.
And this one, this might shock you. Monarch Stormforth.
You can have Stormforth.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. So this will go to my hand. These go back into the deck. All right, we will special summon, since I control no monsters, Super Quantum Red Layer.
Okay.
Let's activate Monarch Stormforth.
Yeah.
Then let's tribute away your, I guess your Majester?
Sure.
We'll go for Majester as well as this Red Layer for an Aether.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
Activate the effect.
Strike.
Well, we can go to game 2.
All right.
That's the Monarch experience, ladies and gentlemen. Boy, do I not miss playing this deck, Joseph. That was something. That was something.
Have you considered blind seconding to get the extra card?
I did not consider that in the slightest. I will be honest with you. And looking at my hand, I'm wishing I...
Okay, cool. See, the problem with your deck is that I think it might actually be too good. Yeah, it might just be too good.
Just too good.
Okay, I have MST. Yeah, I mean, like, I boarded into 15 MSTs to beat domain.
Okay, am I dead?
Yeah. We'll go die here. Is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well,
you didn't kill me last time, so...
This time I have access to Master Pendulum. I've actually got a lot. To the graveyard, we'll go Draco Face Off. We're going to go Master and Luster.
Luster.
Okay, I'm going to special summon him, yeah. No, put him in the fucking zone. Luster.
That's so gross.
Pendysork.
Bring them all out.
Wow. I will scale Pendysork.
Am I just like mega dead here?
Yes.
Oh my god. Yeah, I am.
We'll grab, monkey board.
Monkey board. Yep.
Go for monkey board.
Jesus Christ.
We'll grab, Skullcrabat Joker. We actually haven't normaled.
Nope.
Normal Skullcrabat Joker. Effect. We'll grab Lizard Draw. Fucking Pendulum Summon. Am I right?
Yeah, this is I'm dead. I'm dead. The hand was Aether, Erebus, Stormforth, Return. Woo!
That's classic Monarch. You want to run the game 3?
Yeah, let's do the game 3 because like okay, we have to at least show off what this deck does.
Well,
right?
I think we've showed off what the deck does. I'll tell you that.
3 games in a row. Surely I will at least get to do the combo 1 time. That's doable.
All
Okay,
right.
We can make this work.
I'll tell you, I don't have the free win. Yeah, you can go.
Tenacity.
For it. Okay.
I do have the free
All right,
win.
okay.
That's the difference. All right, Pantheism.
Yeah.
Let's go Pantheism, pitch Prime, so we got the God combo.
Yep. Good.
Oh, that's so good. All right, banish Pantheism. We want... I actually sort of have everything, so I don't know what I want at this rate. In the interest of speeding this up, I will just go triple Stormforth and just add 1 to hand.
You got it.
Actually, I take that back. I'm not going to do that. What did I do? I already Tenacity'd.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do this instead. I'm gonna go Pantheism, Stormforth.
If you're adding the Pantheisms to bait me and you don't have another card in hand, this is like such a nice play, but I mean, it's just such a huge opportunity cost. I cannot let you have Pantheism, so you can have the Stormforth.
Okay. Little crusty how I have to do this, but I think it's actually just fine. Okay, so we're going to fire Domain. So here is the card. We're going to use the effect of Domain. I'm going to reveal a copy of Erebus and make him a level 6 for the turn. I'm going to activate Prime by banishing Tenacity to
Who needs a Squire? That's what I'm saying, is who needs a Squire?
Yeah, I'm like, I'm missing one little piece of the puzzle here. I'm going to activate Return. Sack for Erebus.
Yep.
We're going to go Chainlink 1 Erebus, Chainlink 2 Return.
Sure.
So Return is going to add a Monarch to my hand, so I'm going to grab a copy Aether. Then Erebus, I have to send 2 spells and traps to the grave, and then I get to shuffle a card from your hand into the deck. So I'm going to send Escalation and Pantheism, and we are going to hit... Not that, because that's a 6.
That is literally the most important one of these. Oh, my God.
Excellent.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Whatever.
Cool. Then I will set 1 and wish you the best of luck.
Okay, stand by main. I am locked out of the extra. You have a Stormforth set. You
Presumably.
can go Stormforth, banish Escalation for Prime, banish the Stormforth for Aether on my turn, but I know you have the Kuraz in hand. Can Aether get from hand?
Can Aether special from hand?
Yeah.
It has to be from your deck.
Okay. Just means if I want to get rid of Domain, I have to get rid of Domain. I can't get rid of your monster. I'm damn close, I'll tell you that. Okay, we'll go Unexpected Die here. We will grab Master. Draco Face-Off. We'll go Master and Luster.
1, 2, 3 Master, 4, 5, 6 Luster. And you get the Master.
I'll special the Master.
Okay.
We'll activate Pendysork. Scale Lizard Draw.
What can you do here? Pen Summon. Do I care? No, that's fine. Go ahead.
We'll go Lizard Draw.
Hop and draw. Yeah, that's fine.
We're gonna normal Ariadne battle.
You're going to try to crash the Ariadne so you can get a strike.
Could be.
Before you leave main phase, I'm going to activate Prime.
No response.
Okay. I will activate Stormforth.
No response.
I will activate Aether.
No response.
We'll banish this. We will sack off your Ariadne and my Prime.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay. Yeah, so very quick one for us, but
Yeah.
that's
I mean, that's how it
basically
was.
That's what it's supposed to do. Either you lock the opponent out if they're playing an extra deck, right? Because obviously you could run into Cosmo, which is one of the other decks that's popular around this time. And if you run into Cosmo, then you have a much different uphill battle because Cosmo, yes, has an extra deck, but it doesn't rely on it like Pendulum does. And so it's not really a surprise to see why this was one of the first instances of like buy 3 structure decks and you have like a competitive deck that you could take to locals and actually do just fine with, because you have almost all the pieces you need just right here in this deck. And most notably, you do not need an extra deck to play this, especially if you are playing the Domain variant.
Yeah, I do... I like that we're showing this off now. Domain Monarch was immensely popular, especially, like you said, at the local and regional level. But of course, it did show up constantly at YCSs and UDS events as well. Super Quantum Red Layer was in, I think, Wing Raiders and was a little expensive, but definitely not a necessary piece of the puzzle. Some people would just play in that slot. I think 3 Upstart Goblin was pretty common.
Yeah.
I will say this Draco Pal list continues to evolve. This list I really liked, but it becomes even more tuned by the time the NAWCQ season rolls around, and you start to see sort of pillars of the format, one of which is, of course, Draco Pals, and one of which is Monarch, though it's a Monarch build that looks a little bit different than this one.
A little bit different, and I definitely think it's worth noting that Monarch lists were actually in the top cut of YCS Atlanta when it was Pepe Tier 0 format. There was only a couple of them. I think there might have been like 2 or 3 at most, but if you can get lucky, win your die rolls, and domain lock your opponent out of 11 rounds of a YCS, then, like, you can make top cut. You may not be able to go the full distance, obviously, but sometimes you just get lucky, and that's how it goes. Domain was just that powerful of a card, and some of the decks, as we saw that we featured, I think like Fraser Smith's deck from the first Pepe episode, were on main deck Twin Twister, not only because of the fact that they were trying to prepare for the Ariadne builds, playing the strikes and such, but also because of Domain Monarch. They wanted to have a main deck out to something such as Domain, so that way they didn't immediately fold in game 1 if they lost the die roll in that instance. Now, to be fair, most of the time these Pepe players were preparing for the mirror match because that's what they're expecting to see, but it is one of those concessions in deck building that some of the players opted to make, and that's ultimately what resulted in sort of the format shaping into the way that it did.
Yeah, you can see in my list I've got the Wavering Eyes Searchable Archfiend Eccentric as my domain out. Yep. But post-board, you board out of all the Solemn Strikes and the Bottomless Trap Hole, and it's like 3 Twin Twister, 3 MST, and you're just like, go. This deck was around, and like you said, you can just domain lock 11 rounds in a row if you're running hot. I don't want Monarch to kind of be characterized as it's domain lock or die. This deck was very capable otherwise. Aether and Erebus are extremely powerful. Erebus's ability to start your opponent on a 4-card hand was unbelievable during this period when even the combo decks like Pepe really do need a 5th card to go off. And, I mean, we'll see this as Monarch continues to evolve. But for the time being, Domain was very present. It was very powerful. It's an easy sell in a format where the other 2 top decks are like BA or Phantom Knight or Pepe. Cosmo is a little more dicey. Like you mentioned, Erebus already matches up so well against like Dark Destroyer that it's really hard to pretend like, it isn't like a great matchup anyway.
Yeah, and we will see the evolution of Monarch in probably a couple episodes from now when we show off the
we'll take one
deck
rest.
Variant. The Domain variant was the more popular one during this time, but the extra deck one, funny enough from our research, Joseph probably talked about this in his intro, the extra deck variant was immediately popularized by Barrett Keys at the UDS Invitational in LA, which was the first event to take place right after this adjusted list went into effect. But there's like really no record of the list anywhere, but it's not really surprised a player of his caliber and his testing circle came up with this, while everyone else was just like on nothing but Domain Monarch, just because that was like the easiest path for this deck to take. So guys, that's going to wrap it up for another video. I really hope you all enjoyed. Let's go ahead and shout out the patrons for all of their continued support. So shout out to Shadow1317, Tim00x3, Moto, MBT Play Dolce, Cameron Smith, Pony Stark, Par 2, The Synchro Guide, Dan Manhoben, Phoenix the Immortal, Dixon Yamada, Draconic, Jordan Coons, Iron Bladesman, Jesse Wood, Chris Hood, Valen Jackson, Little Fade Leaf, Dylan Hunter, Cody Brett's Extremely Vulgar Man, Brody Eastwood, Carlos DT, Flannel Daddy, Hornet, Indian Taisho, thanks for the sleeves, Dad, Max, Matthew Brady, Twinkle Muncher, Dalton, Luabon, Yodabon. I've tried reading cards before, it was horrible and my guinea pigs had to give me therapy. Helios515, Cimo's Chaos Cooking Draft, Cheeks McLapperty, Stolfin Amethyst, Nim Noodle, Malabranch of the Burning Tunnels, Wonder Waffle, MBT cancelled by all community soon, cancelled by all committee soon, cancelled by all players soon, Sakura-san, Shrugzix, the Crystal Beast Enthusiast, ITF, Corvain, and True Dragon Gaming. Thank you all so much for watching, and we will see you next time.